Welcome back to my tutorial on Nearpod. This is video number 2. Again, we were discussing about communities. I'm going to go to the Explore page, and I want to go back and I want to find the interactive lesson that I had created on my own. So again, like I had said earlier in video tutorial number 1, I had mentioned that if you create a lesson, it will show up under your library. So I'm going to go to the Explore. I'm going to go to my library. I'm going to go back to my folder, First Grade Woodley. And this will pop up every lesson that I have added from pre-planned or created lessons or lessons that I have created. So earlier this year, with my students, we were doing a unit on communities. And so one of the lessons that I wanted to incorporate was on the topic of the types of communities that we see every day. And so one thing that I did was I created a lesson. However, if you notice, it says Stephen Walker on there, but it was not done by Stephen Walker. However, this is his account. Again, like I discussed earlier in video tutorial number 1, but as Montgomery Public Schools, we all decided just to use one Nearpod account and come together and just combine of our lessons so that way we can use the same resources for each other. But again, like I said, I had created this, so I'm going to click on Preview. And this will show you the title of communities. It'll just give you a picture of communities. It shows you the essential question, what different types of communities do people live in. Of course, when I created this, my students were not yet ready for some of these words. And even if when they were ready, there were some students that I needed to accommodate for. So what I did is I created a recorder. So when you go in and you create your own interactive lessons, you can go in, and if you want it to be read aloud to students, you can add the recorder and just talk in it and save it, and it'll talk for them. So let me play. What different types of communities do people live in? Again, it is still talking about what kind of communities people live in. It shows the learning objectives and what students will learn at the end of this lesson. Again, as you can see, you see a triangle. This shows you that I have, when I created the lesson, I wanted to accommodate my students and let it read aloud to them. By the end of this lesson, you will understand what a community is, identify and differentiate between urban, so you get the gist of that. Talks about today's lesson, what the students will learn again. It does give you some details about the community. Gives students a poll. It lets them vote on what kind of buildings they see where they live. They either vote A through G. And then once they submit their answers, you, as a teacher, will be able to see what the data shows, who voted A, how many students voted B, and so forth. Then this gives you a draw it phase where students can draw the community of where they live and the types of houses that they see and the types of transportation of how to get to and from places. So this just gives a little bit of more of hands-on experience for students where they can draw. So if they wanted to take a pen or a pencil and draw a house, they may see a bunch of houses. And then once they get finished with that, there will be a submit button, and all they do is just submit it. And then once they submit it, you'll be able to see all the students' drawings. Then it's the explore phase. Again, as you can see, I have built in a record system for the students to be read aloud and for them to listen. It goes back into the listening skills. This just talks about the urban, suburban, and rural communities. Gives them a video to watch about the types of communities. Again, it gives them another poll to vote. Of course, this one is different. It's just in now that they've watched the video. Again, it gives them a little bit of an idea of what each type of community is and how maybe they can reflect back and think, was I, do I know what type of community I live in? Urban communities. If you'll notice, there's an icon that says VR, and that just means virtual reality. Here is a virtual reality tour where students can view an urban city. They can do a 360 all the way around. It's a really, really fun way for students to interact, especially when a lot of students don't have that type of background knowledge, but it makes you feel like you're actually there. This is Times Square. Again, it is read to them. After, a lot of times what I've done too is after I have read it to them, then we go back and read it together. Suburban communities, again, you notice that the icon says VR, that means virtual reality. Here is a virtual reality tour for a suburban area. And then there's a quiz. The students have to answer. If they do not answer, then they are not able to proceed on. So this gives you an idea of how many students understand and have gotten it, or students who still need help and don't understand. This allows students to go and list things. They can write, okay, what do you see in an urban area? Do you see lots of buildings? So they can write lots of buildings. Same thing with suburban. What do they see in a suburban area? Rural communities, again, VR means virtual reality. This also has a virtual reality where students can see a farmland, because this is mostly what you see during a rural area. This allows something different too. It says draw a line to match the buildings to the correct community. So we know rural, farm land, urban, cities, and suburban houses. When they get finished, they submit, and then at the end, not at the end of the lesson, but after once every student has submitted their page of their answers, then you will get to see what the data shows. Transport. Again, students can draw lines to where they know, for example, urban. Do you see few people, or do you see many people, or most people? Well, you see most people. So they can match and draw a line. When you're creating a lesson, just keep in mind too, you might want to make sure that you put in directions up at the top so students know what to do. They can circle which one, match the picture. And again, at the end, has an open-ended question. So this allows students to answer what kind of community they live in and explain how they know that they live within that community, and what are maybe some examples to help them know that they live in that community.